Hi, and welcome back to Craft Along with Jay. And if you're new, welcome. My name is Yara, and I'm so happy you could join me today. Today is the 5 under $5 challenge. The theme is Christmas song inspired, hosted by Farm Charm Chic and guest hosted by Buffy Designs. And don't forget, when you're done with this video, go down and check out the playlist and the host channels, which will be linked down in my description box. All right, let's move on to project number one, which is inspired by the Jingle Bells song. I have some little silver jingle bells that I want to paint, and I'm going to make some Mod Podge and some antique green Waverly chalk paint. And I'm mixing it with some Mod Podge just to make sure it's adhering to the bells because they're so smooth. And the Mod Podge will kind of help give it a stay. But you got to be patient because you got to let it all dry, otherwise it's not going to work. Trust me. Then when I completely dry when I started working with them, so I had to go in and do some touch-ups. So yeah, it takes a little bit to dry. And I also spritz a little bit of water in there, just not to have it as thick. I didn't want it to be all clumpy on the bells on the inside, so I spritz some water in there as well. And then I'm just going to put the paint inside this little Ziploc bag, and I'm just throwing some bells in there. I didn't really count. I do end up doing another batch, so um, probably close to the whole bag of bells is what I'm using. Maybe not all, but close. And then I'm just going to squish it around in there and get them all nice and painted. It's definitely a time saver doing it this way. So you don't have to sit and paint them one by one. And then I'm just going to dump them out on a parchment paper and let them sit and dry. I'm going to spread them out a little bit so they're not drying stuck together. And then I got like just some leftover piece of foam, floral foam, and I'm gonna just make an indentation with this little bucket that is from the Dollar Tree and put that in there. So the mini bells I paid about $1.50 for, and the mini bucket you get three in a pack of $1.25. I haven't had it for a while, so that's about 42 cents. And then I'm using some other things that's less than a dollar. So the total is somewhere estimated around 261. So very inexpensive, budget friendly. Then you can see I got some scraps of burlap here that I just had stashed in a Ziploc bag just in case you need a little piece. And I did. And I just measured a piece out to go around the bucket. And I'm going to paint the bucket with truffle just because you could see the white through the burlap. And I want it to kind of be like, more rustic looking. So I painted it. And then I got one of those big dowels, and then I got two skewer sticks. I'm painting that with the antique green. I'm not sure where I got the dowels from, um, but I just kind of estimated. So it's about 14 cents, and the skewer sticks maybe 5 cents for two. So I just cut a piece down to size, and then where I cut, I'm just going to give a little touch up of the antique green to cover that up, like so. And then I'm going to measure out the skewer sticks. I'm going to put them on the side and kind of lean them forward. So it started to take the shape of a tree. So the Jingle Bell song, I was picturing like going on a sleigh ride out in the woods. You pick up your little Christmas trees, you hear the jingle bells. So that inspired me to make a jingle bell tree. So that's what we're working on right here. You see, I'm kind of leaning it in. I'm going to cut three other pieces. So I have four total. So it goes around. And then I'm going to start attaching them. I'm just going to attach them with some hot glue like so. And I do that with the other three as well. So I do on this side, and then I go across to the other side, and then the other two, so that way it's kind of evenly spaced out. And you can see on my fingers, my paint is not completely dry. I was being a little impatient here, but I was so excited to get working on this. So yeah, this is what happens. And here we get the third one. Just a little dab of hot glue. And then just hold it in place till the glue dries. And this is the last one. And then I do go in with some touch up on the top of the tree. Yep, like so. Get that nice and cleaned up. And if you can see a little bit of the hot glue, you can paint that as well, and you won't be able to see it once we get it all decorated. So here I'm going in with my bells. I put one on the top, and then I'm going to go down the sides of the skewer sticks all the way down. And I think the size of the skewer sticks was enough that I could fit 9 bells down on each one of them. And I'm just hot gluing them into place. Yeah, I'm trying to pick the ones that are, for the most part, dry and get them on there first. And then I do the same thing to the other 3 sides as well. Then when I'd done that, I went in and did some touch-ups. I do another step here afterwards, so if you're going to do touch-ups, I would probably wait a little bit, but that was kind of an afterthought because I had some leftover bells. So I'm going to go in between into the trunk of the tree and start adding some. I'm just randomly adding some because I don't have a space to add all the way up and down, getting them in there because it gets tighter as you get to the top. So I'm just randomly putting something in there just to make it kind of look like more of a fullness of a tree. I mean, it turned out really well. I like it a lot. And here I'm just going to add some uh, dots of glue around my bucket to attach my burlap. And then I'm taking some jute twine and just tying a bow around it and cut the excess off. And then I'm just folding the burlap over a little bit to make it look nice. And that's what it looks like. I think it's absolutely super adorable. You gotta let me know what you think. My little jingle bell tree. Oh, as you can see, I painted the um, styrofoam on the inside too instead of having to deal with moss or something like that. So here's the next one, our angel project. I got this beautiful um, ornament from Dollar General, but we're gonna give her a little makeover to make it more like Rustic Farmhousey. And first, before I start painting her with plaster, I'm gonna try and get as much of the glitter off as I can. It's really just on one side, but I want to paint both sides, give her a complete makeover. So I'm trying to get as much off as I can. And then what I can't get off, I'm just going to seal it in with some Mod Podge, as you see me doing right here. It could be any kind of Mod Podge. This is just the one that I had close by, my antique Mod Podge. So that's what I'm working with. And then when that's dry, I'm going to give her a coat of plaster both sides. Let it dry on one side before you move to the other side. I wanted to kind of bring out some of the details of this angel because she's absolutely gorgeous. And then I'm going to give it some antique Mod Podge on top just to give her a little bit of more of a rustic look and also to seal in the paint because it was a smooth surface, even though we put Mod Podge under it. Just want to make sure everything stays in place. And then I'm going to go in with this gold leaf rub and buff and we're going to highlight all the little details. And this is really going to pull it out. It turns out so beautiful. And I'm just using my finger just to kind of feel the raised areas, and that's where the rub and buff is going to go. And I'm just buffing it in as I go along. And once I'm done with this side, I'm going to move around to the other side. But you see how the details come out? Absolutely gorgeous. And I'm just, very little goes a long way, so you just kind of put a little bit on your finger and then buff it in. You don't need a whole lot. And then we're going to work on the other side, like so. And then once I'm done with that, I'm going to take that little pretty gold bow that it came with and put that right back on. Tie it together at the top, and then I'm just going to pull the knot down to the loop part so you won't see the knot. And that's going to be it for this one. Pretty quick and easy, but it's absolutely adorable. And this cost me what, maybe $1.50? Not bad. Look at that. Isn't she gorgeous? Love it. All right, project number 3. It is inspired by Dreaming of a White Christmas. Oh, did I forget? The second one was inspired by Angels We Have Heard on High. So this is Dreaming of a White Christmas. I got both of these pieces from the Dollar Tree, um, back when they were $1.25. I don't know if they still are. Maybe they are. I've had them for a while, so yeah, we're gonna use them today. And I'm just kind of finding the middle point of the big wood rounds. I know where to put the frame. And then I'm just going to trace it, the circle part out in the middle. So we have a place to go, and also I don't want to paint the middle with the antique wax, which we're going to go around the outer part of the wood round with some antique wax and kind of rustic it up some, like, yep, like that. And then the middle part, we're going to use the antique Mod Podge. And then the frame we're going to do in plaster. And I'm just, after I paint it with plaster, I'm just going in with very little antique wax on a paper towel and just distress the frame a little bit. Not much, just wanted a little bit. Because I want it still have it to go with what we're going to put in the middle of the wood vine and kind of go together and give it that white Christmas feel, but rustic farmhousey style. I'm going to use this little napkin that I got from Dollar General, and we're going to use that um, woodland farmhouse, farm outdoorsy piece of it right there. I think it's absolutely adorable. And it's a two-ply napkin, so we're going to take the back ply off and just use the front part. And it's on there pretty tight, so just very gently pull it so you don't rip the napkin. And then I'm making sure that it'll fit behind my frame. And also I need to do a little bit of cutting so we can't see the edges on the details of the frame kind of sticking out. So I'm going to trace the inside. That's why I flipped the napkin over so I can trace the inside of the napkin. And then when I cut it, I'm going to leave a little bit of a seam so that way it has something to attach to on the frame and we don't have any gaps. So just, very little. And then I'm making sure that it's all looking the way I want it. And then when I'm happy with that, the Mod Podge in the middle circle has dried. So we're now going to attach our napkin right there. And that's why we didn't paint antique wax that. I had the antique wax under it. So it's not bright white, but it gives it a little bit more of a, rusticy look. And then I'm just putting some parchment paper on top and using my mini heat press to iron it down and it's nice and stuck. Then we'll use some Type 1 wood glue to attach the frame. And I'm just going to spread it out with my finger so that way we have less oozing of the glue when we put it down. I don't think I had any actually. But if you do, you can just use a dry brush and kind of brush it off while it's still wet. But this kind of helps lessen the amount when you just spread it out with your finger or even a brush. And I'm just holding that into place. Then I have a random piece of nautical rope that's been laying in my stash for a long time. And I didn't have enough to go all the way around, so I'm gonna separate them so I have three pieces. And you really just need one and like partially of a second one, so totally inexpensive when you have stuff laying around. And I think kind of the total of this one is somewhere around like $3.30 to make. No biggie. And here I'm just gonna get some hot glue on the edges of my string so it doesn't have all this ravelly stuff. And then I'm just gonna hot glue that around my edge just to give it like a nice other frame look besides the frame we have in the middle. Kind of elevates it, I think. So I'm just hot gluing that all the way around till I'm out of string, and then we'll do add another string, and we'll do the same thing, add a little bit of hot glue to the edges for the frame, and then we'll just attach that. And you can see it's very little. I'm almost to the top. So never throw anything away. You may just need a small piece of something somewhere, and then you have it. And we'll just attach that right here, and you can't really tell. I might have to play a little bit with the sizing here. I think I still need to cut a little. Yeah. And then I'll take another piece that I had left over and just make like a shoestring bow. Then I'm going to put at the top, like so. And then I have some of these little snowflakes that I picked up at Hobby Lobby. I think it has like, is it 52 or 53 of those in there? And I'm just using, how many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 of them, I think. 6, 7, no, 8. I'm using 8 of them. And I'm not painting them anything. I'm leaving it the wood color because I think it looks so nice on here, and it kind of went with the theme that I was going for, the look and color-wise. So I'm just going to add some hot glue to those and add those. And that pack of snowflakes is like, was it? It was 40% off, 50% off when I bought them, so it's like $1.24. So they're about $2.99 for a pack. It's very inexpensive. So for 8 of those, it's like 18 cents. But that's what it looks like. Let me know what you think. Project number 4 is inspired by Joy to the World. And I got this little wood house, and we're gonna attach this really pretty holly berry paper that I got out of one of the um, paper books from Hobby Lobby that I've had for like years. And I'm gonna use some Mod Podge just because it's pretty thick. So I'm not sure how the glue stick is gonna handle it. So we're gonna go in with the Mod Podge to make sure that it will stick and not peel off. And I'm giving it a pretty generous layer. And make sure you get all the way around the edges so it doesn't flip up, around the corners and stuff. So good layers, but spread it out really well. And then we'll attach the paper to it. And then just press it down to make sure that it's adhering well. And then I let that sit for a little bit just to kind of let it set before we're going to start, cutting the excess paper off. And then once I've done that, I think I used an X-Acto knife to do that. And then I decided to go in and do some distressing with some antiquing wax. And first I'm going around the edges with a chippy brush. And then when I get all the way around, I go in with whatever's left over on the brush to do the middle part because I don't want it to be all brown, but I just want it to look, distressed. So yeah, and then when I have leftover, just go in there and give it a little bit, and that's what that looks like. And then I have, what do I have? I have a package sign that says Joy to the World, and I'm gonna take one of them and paint the outside with the antique green and the inside with cardinal red. And that little wreath that I'm working on here, it's like $1 because it's $3. You get three in a pack. And the wood house is $1.25. Scrapbook paper 10 cents. So this project is about $2.35. Very budget friendly. And then once I painted that, I distressed it some, and then I'm going to use some hot glue and attach it to the middle of my little house. Just randomly putting some in there so that way we get a hold all the way around and in the middle. And then just place it down to the house. And then I took a little bit of jute twine that came in the pack for a hanger and just tied a little bow on top. And then I antique waxed the edges of the house. And that's what it looks like. Let me know what you think about this one. Project number 5 is inspired by Oh Christmas Tree. So I got this Christmas tree from the Dollar Tree. And then I got the scrapbooking paper from Hobby Lobby, of course. And this is not the thick kind, this is the thinner one. And the reason why I chose this paper is because I wanted it to be a Christmas tree, but like an outdoorsy, out in the woods on the farm kind of tree. So yeah, I was kind of wanted to give it the element of it being an outdoorsy tree. So that's why I chose this paper, if that makes sense. Instead of the traditional just making a green tree, just a little bit outside the box. Make it different, make it mine. And here it's thin enough, this paper, that I can use some um, Elmer's glue stick glue, and I'm just gonna cover it up really well. And I do it in sections because I feel like on this kind of wood it dries really quickly. And then I'm gonna go in with my X-Acto knife and just cut the excess off around the tree. And if there's still anything hanging after you do this, you can go in with a sanding block and just sand it down even more if you need to. I think I did in one little area. And then I'm just going to use a little bit of antique wax here and distress the edges of my tree just to keep up with the rustic look. And I'm going again all the way around the edges and then a little bit in the middle part. but not too much. I really like this paper. I think it's absolutely gorgeous that I used. Then I just go around the edges, kind of wipe the excess off, kind of lessens it a little bit, and make it look more natural. And I do that in the middle as well. And then I had this garland I've had for so many years. Came out of, I cut a string out of this whole thing. I think it may have come from Hobby Lobby. And I kind of just cut a string off that I thought I was going to need, but it was sparkly, which I love at Christmas time. But it didn't go with my theme, so we're going to tone it down. I'm still using the same colors, but I'm going to cover it with paint so we can get like the glittery part off of it. Just tone it down a notch to go, the Rustic Farmhouse theme, outdoorsy lights and stuff. So I'm just leaving one on the string, and then I'm using Splendid Gold, Cardinal Red, and Antique Green to paint the little light bulbs here. Oh, ornaments, I guess. Light bulb ornaments. That could be either, I guess. And then I left them on the gold string, but I wanted it on a jute twine just to go with the look. So I'm trying to figure out if I can glue the gold string just directly onto the jute twine. So the jute twine is what's showing, and it works. So here I'm doing it in a section. I'm not sure why I did it this way. You could actually just crisscross it down, but this is how I did it at that moment. So I think my concern was I didn't want anything on the back. So here I'm just hot gluing that string onto the jute twine. So the jute twine is what's going to be in the front, and that's what it looks like they're attached to. So yeah. And then when I get to the end, I'm just going to cut that jute twine off, and then we'll attach it up here, like so, at an angle. And I'm just using some hot glue to attach it to the back of my tree. And then I'll do the same thing for the next one. And I was kind of one short, so I had to cut one off. But it's okay, it all gets attached to the jute twine, and it's hanging right there. Then I decided to take one of those little snowflakes, paint it with some Splendid Gold metallic paint, and that's kind of what gets a little star at the top of the tree. So this one is roughly about $2.51, 52 cents. So yeah, very budget friendly, and I think it turned out absolutely cute. And then yeah, attach it with some hot glue. And then I think I add some Jenga blocks to the back to help it being able to stand. I don't know if I show you. Nope. I think I put some Jenga blocks so it could stand on its own. So let's take a final look at all of them. A little Jingle Bell tree, Joy to the World, our angels we have heard on high. I love her. I think she's gorgeous. Then I'm dreaming of a white Christmas. And then, oh, Christmas tree. Let me know what you think about these. And if you made it all the way to the end of the video with me, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Don't forget to subscribe, like, comment, and hype my video. And check out that playlist down in my description box. Until next time.